is championship weekend in the Western Ultimate League. 2026 seems 4 teams that have made it here before, but a very different path. And the first semi is featuring Seattle Tempest taking on the Bay Area Falcons. We are here in University of Oregon Portland Stadium in Portland, Oregon, and I am Katie Killebrew, joined by Charlie Mercer. We are so excited to bring you this championship weekend. Charlie, what are you expecting from this weekend?
This whole weekend is going to be full of incredible plays, amazing teamwork. There's so much that who knows what's going to happen. 4 teams with so much potential and strength. It's going to be incredible.
I think this first semi in particular, nobody knows what is going to happen because these 2 teams actually haven't played each other for an entire year. How did they get here without facing each other?
I think that's going to be part of the story of this game, is who's going to be able to have the flexibility to be able to make the adjustments during the course of this game, because so much turnover and team identity shifts have happened for these teams that they are truly very different versions of themselves than they were in 2025.
Well, why don't we start talking about the Bay Area Falcons? That team has really had a lot of change and turnover as we see the teams starting to run onto the field. What has it been like for the Bay Area Falcons this season?
The Bay Area Falcons had a sort of hectic first weekend of play during the regular season, where they were the only team to have an away doubleheader to start the season off. They had a number of new players that had moved to the area, players that had retired, new players coming up, and so during that first weekend doubleheader, it seemed like they were still feeling each other out, and then there was a big emphasis on cohesion and coming up with what their team identity was going to be, playing with the urgency to get the cohesion, but accompanying that with a lot of joy.
A lot of joy, and those additions we're talking about is a lot of North Carolina players, people who have won, if you've been following Ultimate Frisbee, with the 4-time national championship team, the UNC Pleiades, Don Colton, Alex Barnett, Sarah Combs, and Karen Arhart, not necessarily on the team, but also from North Carolina, really bringing some championship mentality to this team. And we were talking with the captains, prior to the tournament starting, about what that energy was very different for this Falcon team that has gotten to the semifinals last time for the first year and made it to championship weekend a couple times, but they really have never been able to climb all the way to the top, and they have certainly faced their share of adversity here today to get here.
The transition. One of the new players for the Falcons was Bridget Whiffler, who is a former Seattle Tempest, and that will be something that Seattle Tempest will be facing and feeling the loss of Whiffler. When we look at this Tempest roster, they also had a significant amount of turnover. Seattle has the benefit of having a youth pipeline in the area, again, players that are moving into the Seattle area, so you have new players to the WL and to the Tempest, but not necessarily new to competitive Ultimate. And so the competitive pedigree that players like Meg Manning are bringing to this program with a lot of experience, but you also have new, has never played in the WL, Jamie Kaufman, who is on this Tempest roster and just exploding, leading the team in across blocks and assists and goals.
Yeah, and as we see the teams lining up, feeling the moment. Players taking the field, feeling what it's like to be here at championship weekend. That pause almost before the game really makes it real, because now the players are about to take the field. Captains coming together with our observers team doing the flip. But we have some players to watch, Charlie, that I think definitely deserve to get talked about. Let's start with Robin Fenig from the Falcons.
Robin Fenig, this is their second year with the Falcons, and they have made such a difference with their incredible leadership, throws, and offensive execution. The way that they can place the disc to anywhere on the field opens up spaces and lanes for cutters to get the disc that make it really hard for other teams to guard, because Fenig can find those holes, has this incredible arsenal of throws, and has played for championship team after championship team and knows how to win, carries themselves with that authority and with the experience. And they are the player that other players on the team have been looking up toward.
Yeah, captain of this team and nominated as one of the offensive players of the year. That award will be given out tomorrow, but may have to do a little bit more lifting, because Alex Barnett, the other offensive player of the year nominee from Falcons, is not able to play today. So a lot of pressure resting on that captain, Robin Fenig, and they will be facing on the other side against Tempest, a absolute knockout player in Jamie Kaufman.
Jamie Kaufman, first year in the WUL. Jamie Kaufman has just come onto the scene with explosiveness, with power, their ability to step onto the O-line and make a difference, their ability to lock up on defense has made a difference. They're leading the team across all categories, and as a first-year player in the WUL is a finalist for the MVP award because of the consistent numbers they're putting up. They're like a team's ability, the Tempest ability to score when Jamie is on the field goes up 150% because of their contributions.
Yeah, on both sides of the disc, and also Cheryl Sue out there for Tempest. Kaufman has been such a good target for them in the D space, so difficult to guard, and I think as we see these windy conditions today, it's that height, that extra kind of X factor that Kaufman brings to the field that Seattle Tempest is going to be looking to put them over the top. Huddles happening. What is this moment like, Charlie, when you're here at the beginning of the day?
This moment is all about your team identity and thinking about how you want to craft this game. This moment is focusing on the controllables, regardless of what happened before this game, the uncontrollables. You are here and you get to savor this moment. And something that I think is so special about the Western Ultimate League, and this moment specifically, is the growth of women's sports nationally.
Yeah, that was a shot of Alex Barnett limping off. The travel situation that Bay Area Falcons had last night, being stuck in the airport, not getting into Portland until so early in the morning, really exacerbated that injury. But it's one of those things when you're talking about uncontrollables, it doesn't matter what time you got here. You still have to play this game and rise to this moment. And we are lucky enough to see who is going to get that done. It looks like Falcons are going to be starting on offense. You can see Kaufman there holding the disc on defense. Coach Ray Yang giving some last-minute adjustments. We play a game of 4 quarters. The first one begins now. 12 minutes on the clock, and the disc is in the air. Centering to Fenig. Falcons calming. It's very windy today. Earhart. Back to Fenig. Not a lot of options upfield. 7-second stall can move really quickly with this player counted rule set we're playing with. Looks deep and puts it deep. Floating. The wind takes that one away. Bay give up the first turn after tight Seattle defense forces that one into the wind.
Seattle's defense They have a number of players with that lockdown D. It was Paige with the D there, who's now cutting deep.
Great reception under pressure. Captain Lauren Page dishes it back. Brogan Jones upfield to Anna Petty. Finally gets it off that sideline. Through the middle. Page again on the doorstep. Those yellow lines are what we're playing with, trying to get closer to that end zone. Manning, back to Page. Jones, up and over the top, floating in the wind, and it is a break. Meg Manning with the score.
Meg Manning is a Defensive Player of the Year finalist for the WUL. Played in the PUL before. There's that block from Paige. Brogan Jones putting that disc up. Manning is leading Tempest in huck receptions. While that wasn't necessarily a huck reception, it was that sort of same arc of a throw, that like sort of floaty away shot that I think is Manning's specialty. Manning's impact is going to be all over this game, and their ability to deliver on offense will be a significant difference maker for Tempest's efficacy and their ability to go far in this game.
Yeah, we were talking with coaches a little bit before this game and talking about the defensive offense, right? Led by Manning in some ways, but that entire line being able to really, like at this point in the season, have come together cohesively, and they're able to punch that one in without any extra turnovers. In a game that is as windy as this, to get a clean, efficient hold as Kaufman puts the the pull up. Bay is going to need to strike back. And a block from Kaufman on Wynn. Another turnover for Bay. Kaufman with the disc on the far side. Linnea Sue, the other handler, up and over the top. A little bit too far for Petty. Miller picks up immediately and goes to Jenny Lee. Jenny Lee also new to the Falcons side this year, coming from the Boston area, having previously played with Brute Squad. That one a little bit low, ruled up. Another big shot going up from Fenig, trying to will it back in bounds, but too far for the intended receiver, Zalk.
Zalk, one of the top receivers for Bay Area, and will be someone that Fenig will be shooting for. Zalk has really stepped up their game this year, and so will be really fun to watch in this game, particularly I think the battle between Zalk and Kaufman if they're matched up against each other.
Another break chance for Seattle. Manning with the disc. Upfield Kaufman, but the wind gets a hold of that one, makes it bobble up and down, and Zalk makes sure it's batted out of bounds. 2 turns apiece in this second points. Turnover on the first throw from Lee to Fenig. Linnea Sue. Tight dump defense and a stall, no contest. Goss on the mark, couldn't get through that set fast enough.
That was a quick stall.
Fenig to Goss. Moving upfield, Wynn off the shoelaces. Kobe puts it up, floating for Lee. 2 players going down, but it looks like a little bit of legs tangled.
And the legs being tangled certainly impacted both players' ability.
Yeah, getting another look at it, the disc flying, moving backwards. It's one of those, and maybe you have more of an opinion, Charlie, on that, like backwards thing. We're seeing the observer saying foul. So that you're seeing the hand signal for turnover. The foul was on the player walking backwards. Sorry, we had a little bit of access into what that play was, and another opportunity.
Pointing out that Linnea Sue has been playing previous seasons often as a cutter and now is here doing a lot more handling, particularly due to the absence of Alexa Kirkland.
Great grab by Manning, guarded by Miller. And Lee gets inside of Petty to get that one back.
Great body work by Lee to get that inside angle.
Goss looking inside shot. Win gets it. What a long second point we just had, but that is a hold for Bay Area.
The wind is making a really big impact here. There's that initial D by Kaufman. The overthrow, Petty bidding for it, but unable to get it. Fenig's long shot to Zulk. Another overthrow. These players who typically are so precise with all of their throws, many of these turnovers they're able to be D'd because the wind is taking it a little bit off path, making the defender able to get it. There's that throwing pass, really great grab. And like the reset passes aren't connecting with the consistency that they have previously. And that is going to make both teams have to adjust their game plans.
Captain Margot Donahue, the first look at the Falcons D-line. Cheryl Sue now with the disc. Back to Jess Spalding. Working with Heidi. Spalding, the three handlers in the back, taking advantage of the space given by the poaching defenders. Finally hit a cutter upfield. Back in the hands of the handlers. Heidi upfield for Spalding, who grabs it over the head of the defender. Tight to Baroma. Stuck on the sideline, and it's Cheryl Sue. The captains connect for the Tempest score.
That is the first point we've had that has been a one possession point. Great work by Sue to drive to the inside and then come back to the open side for that score from Baroma. There's the upfield to Baroma. Watch Sue's footwork as they make that hard cut, sort of button hook, but then use that to get that inside space. That is a Cheryl Sue that has like built up these years of experience. Cheryl Sue of 2 years ago wouldn't have made that move. But I think the really like explosion of offensive effectiveness that we've seen from Sue this year has to do with all of that experience and putting those little pieces together.
Yeah, so you're saying that maybe a cutter might usually go up line and then not make an effective second effort, right? So taking advantage of that space is something that Cheryl Sue has done really well, and that was very efficient from our first look at the Tempest O-line, and they get their D back on the field.
Pull from Antolin, who is here, was coaching the high school national invite, but came for this game, even though her team is playing in the quarterfinals as we speak.
Yeah, high school national invite is happening just down the road. Big throw going up, floating, but not able to be read by Zulk.
Antolin took the inside lane there and caused visual confusion.
This is a break chance for Seattle. moving the disc upfield. Brogan Jones out of bounds, ruled by the observer, tried to get the tippy toes in, but possibly landed on the yellow line. There is it's a turnover. Pugh and Lee just getting upline after upline, working in that handler reset pattern. Lurie, Fenig, finds a reset in Earhart. Lee gets it back in the middle, an inside flick, but the wrong edge, tails away from Zalk.
The style of play that the Falcons thrive on, with the possession and the precision of their throws, is definitely going to be and has been impacted by the windiness of this field. That was somewhat unexpected.
Jones launches one. You can see the edge tailing down. Well read by Sienna Antolin. Antolin and Page. Back to Antolin. Jones gets it. That one's inbounds. And back to Antolin. Give and go, slicing and dicing all the way up the field. It's another break for Seattle Tempest.
Seattle Tempest is driven by their defensive intensity. That work by Antolin. Antolin was all over this point.
There's another look at that turnover. You can see the edge of the disc just going away from the cutter as opposed to back in. That was the reception from Antolin between two defenders.
And this play by Brogan Jones. Brogan Jones is someone who started with the Tempest as a practice player in previous seasons and has played themselves onto the roster and keeps getting better and better. Brogan Jones actually leads the team in points played per game. They haven't played as all of the games, so it's not total points played, but they've averaged between 17 and 18 points played per game, and it's because of their utility in those moments. So not necessarily showing up across the stat board, but keep an eye out for Jones, that sideline grab after it had bounced off their hands. Those are the sorts of plays that make them invaluable to the D-line's office for Tempest.
Things falling apart for Falcons. Another reset. Turnover. Short field for Tempest. Tempest unhesitating. Jules Mazzo with the disc. Back to Manning. Manning giving and going up line. And is open right there at the front of the end zone. A missed switch by Falcons. And it is a tempest that the Falcons are having to deal with. What a storm of things happening. That's the turnover. And the give and go. Manning making look easy.
We touched earlier on the travel troubles that the Falcons had to get here. And I want to highlight those at this moment because it is not often that a team has to endure emotional challenges, physical challenges, and mental challenges going into a semifinals game. And I think that's part of what's at play here. And I think that the coaching leadership of the Falcons are so strong that I expect that they're going to be able to bring the team together, reflect on this, and make the necessary adjustments. And it is something that the team is going to have to work through because of this incredibly challenging landing at 4:35 this morning in Portland to be playing this game right now.
Trying to take a deep breath. It looks like we are seeing a delay maybe of game on the Falcons. from starting that point. It did feel like a little bit longer of a pause, which is going to result in a yardage penalty. Tempest moving up to half field.
Reverse brick. Tempest is going to start possession at the reverse, at the brick, at the reverse brick.
Yeah, unsure of the call with why, but that's another, it feels like strike against this Falcons team. I don't know if it was time or some other thing. We'll get clarity on that. But now disc is in play. Pfennig starting behind their own end zone line. Up and over the top, dug out by Goss. Goss upfield, intended for Sarah Combs, but too far. Antolin. Mazzo. Page now with the disc for Tempest. And a little bit low, maybe pushed by the wind, intended for Jones. A reprieve for Falcons. Pfennig with a hope and a prayer. It would have been inbounds, but couldn't maintain contact through ground. And it might be a foul called by Goss.
It does look like there was player contact as Goss was laying out. Goss is taking an injury, so there will be an injury substitution. Foul has been called. I think that's one of those like incidental contact fouls where Page is trying to, take the inside lane, and coming to them was ruled a foul. So Falcons will keep possession of the disc. I think this strategy from the Falcons to take more deep shots and think about field position is going to make a difference and will be helpful for them in making this comeback.
It certainly hasn't been good for them when they've given Tempest a short field to work with. Zalk up and over the top. The connection play to Kobe, win with the disc. And it's a hold after that very surprising reverse brick situation we started with.
Due to some incredible footwork from Goss, right? Like that ability to, focus toe the line as the disc is sailing. Zalk did a great job picking up and moving, attacking the disc quickly. I think that Tempest wasn't fully set up, and that quick movement is going to be advantageous for Falcons. It's something that they do frequently, but I think that making sure that they're doing it not just on the first possession, but continuing it when they get the possession back.
Zalk with a thumbs up. That O-line gonna get a breather. Their D-line gonna try to stay on the field a little bit longer this time. Slow down this very efficient Seattle O-line. Sue picking up, working with Spalding. Kaufman, Sue, Kaufman. I feel like I'm going to be saying those names a lot if they keep up this offensive pattern. Spalding looking for a cutter, but opting for the handler reset, churning through that cuts. They're gaining yards. Sue faking, Kaufman faking the hammer, finding Baroma underneath. A lot of players in the same area as they're getting towards the end zone. Kaufman on the sideline. Strikes upfield. It's Breakout Player of the Year nominee, Gemma Monk with the score.
Something that has been so impressive about Kaufman this year is their versatility toward being in the backfield to being in the downfield. And it makes it really hard to figure out what type of player you should put to guard Kaufman. Are you going to put a squirrely handler defender that's going to be able to keep up with them in that back space? There's Casey the Sasquatch, the mascot for the Tempest. Or are you going to put someone who is tall and lengthy to be able to compete with them when Kaufman goes into the deep space? And I think that there, Kaufman is showing their versatility in the throwing position with the precision and preciseness of their throws. And it does make them, just incredibly challenging to guard.
Well, that was a very efficient possession, and they haven't even really had to stretch deep or put up a deep throw because they're getting the reset, they're moving through the handler space, they're getting those short throws over and over again. If Bay is going to have a chance, they're going to have to stop that really kind of buzzsaw cutting motion from Seattle Tempest.
But also Falcons have been throwing a lot of sort of junky Ds in the handler set, giving the handlers that space. I think if they tighten up in the person, it would make a difference.
You heard it here first, but that's a D from Anna Petty on Sarah Combs. This Falcons O-line beleaguered by turnovers, and I hear a whistle. The coach saving possession on that one with a timely timeout call.
I think that as we think about, how the coaches use timeouts, I want to highlight the strength of the coaching staff for both of these teams. The Bay Area coaching staff, led by Manisha Dariani, has just so much experience, and I think that the addition of Hensley Sajor to their coaching staff this year has brought a lot of new defensive schemes that the team has been trying out and has added an extra dimension. And I think that Manisha has been really kind of at the peak of her coaching game, bringing so much joy and inclusion, and just someone who is an owner of the Falcon, is board president of the WL, is so talented at so many things, is really upping her game as a coach. And I think that in this moment, this timeout, I know it was called by Tempest, but I actually think it's more advantageous for Falcons for their coaching staff to be hey, we are here, these are the adjustments we're gonna make. And I expect that this moment actually could be momentum change that's going to propel the Falcons forward.
Yeah, well, one of the things that can start that momentum change is the ability in the WUL rule set to sub all 7 players. As we're seeing new players on the field for Falcons, and it looks like the O-line from Tempest also taking the field, so that personnel change in what is a break chance, definitely a potential momentum shift. And despite the defensive pressure, Gemma Monk gets another one. It looks like there might be a stall called, which would bring this back. And that is looks like a no, immediately overruled by the observers. Clarity, which I appreciate. And that was just a great reception, and also great defensive pressure from Lily Stepanidis to try to come through. Really almost got that one. Good focus from Monk.
Spalding with that assist there, and I think it plays to Spalding's strength. Spalding's superpower is their standstill huck precision. So giving them the disc on the sideline, their ability to place that. Gemma Monk has proven this year that they are just an exceptional receiver, and so that pairing was definitely intentional from the Tempest team. We have 23 seconds left in the first. Seattle is up 6-2. What are your thoughts going for this last point of the half?
Well, I think it's one of the features of the WUL rule set that we've seen is that it is not a buzzer beater at the end of the quarter. It is a possession game, really putting the pressure on those offensive units. So Seattle is either going to want to get a turn very quickly, right? Bay is going to want to hold on to it to keep this possession and try to keep this game, if they can, get it back within 3. As we see Miller centering to Fenig. Chang. Back to Fenig, a little bit more isolation. We're seeing almost a little bit too low, but Lee gets it. It looks like a down called as we hear the horn go, so that is possession staying with the Falcons. Can they march it up the field? It's been difficult for them to get it in this shifting wind. Chang tipping-toeing Lee. Back to the middle, finally finding Stepanidis, a little bit too floaty. Zolk elevates. Chaos at the front of the end zone, trying to find an easy receiver. Finds Fenig. Fenig punches it and gets it. A self. Mac for the score. What a possession for Bay to end the first quarter.
That incredible work shows the depth and talent of this Bay Area offense. The grittiness to go. Fennig's like, I got this. It is perfection from this Falcons offense. First time that the Falcons offense have scored in one possession in this first quarter.
And we'll see what comes up in the second as the teams huddle. More to come in championship weekend when we come back.
Creatine is only for extreme athletes who eat dominance.
Actually, let's skip that part. Combat Candy is for everyone who trains hard and deserves better than choking down powder. 5 grams of science-backed creatine in a gummy that turns supplement routine into something to look forward to. Just because your workout is serious business doesn't mean your creatine supplement is to be. Combat Candy. Making strength frickin' delicious. Try it at combatcandies.com.
Three quarters to go right now. Seattle Tempest leads the Bay Area Falcons 6-3, but everything to play for in our first semifinal of championship weekend. The Bay Area Falcons took that break on the field, huddling, feeling the momentum. Seattle Tempest took it in the shade, trying to preserve those legs, but right now, Bay is going to have to make a comeback, and they're going to have a chance coming out on defense to start the second quarter.
The Bay has a 7-1 regular season record, and coming out as the 2 seed based on point differential to San Diego Super Bloom from the Northwest Conference, or from the Southwest Conference, but the Southwest Conference is 6-2 combined over the Northwest Conference.
Very strong, and that is the same as the throw from Cheryl Sue, getting popped up in the wind a little bit and still received. Kaufman in the end zone, but the reception, I believe that was Nina Finley. The defensive pressure here just there, couldn't get a hand on it, and it is in the end zone. Oh, that was Jessie Song with the defensive pressure, the focus from Finley.
To be able to come through with that and then dish it to Kaufman for the completion of that. This Tempest play has somewhat undermined the point that I was going to make, which is that the Bay has come from a more competitive conference, and so they've had more games that have been closer, which is, you know, potentially would give them that advantage in these tight games, whereas Seattle has had the overwhelming majority of their games as a blowout. In this situation, does that give the Bay an advantage because they know how to come back? They've been in these situations in the regular season where you could still learn and like fiddle with what adjustments you wanted to be making.
And they're gonna have to figure something out. Fennig doing the lion's share of picking up for the Falcons yet again. High stall count and has to launch it. Earhart intended receiver, but had no options downfield. The defensive team pressure from Tempest yields another turnover.
Something that Tempest prides themselves is on their lockdown defending. Certainly being demonstrated during this game.
Jones looks deep, finds Petty. Kaufman going back and forth with Megan Louie. Jones up a layout block. That was Nguyen giving the disc back to the Falcons.
Best block we've seen so far this game.
Shooting deep a little bit away from the intended receiver. The wind, I feel like, continues to change directions every time I look at the flags in the distance. Must be difficult down there on the field, especially as you get close to the end zone. But another break chance for Seattle. Page, the captain, can't control that one. Short field for Falcons.
Wind is mostly crosswind.
Fenig calling a foul on Jones. No contest.
You could, from the booth, felt like I could hear the contact.
Yes, but very clearly signaled by both players, and the disc comes back into action. Fenig finding Lee. Working together, Fenig upfield to Win trying to look for Earhart. Break, back to Fenig. Every catch is highly contested. Combs floats it to Fenig. Bobbling, and Combs can't control it. Not expecting the disc to come to her there. Jones. And that's the second, I would call, doink from Page in this point. We've had another point with a lot of turnovers, but we haven't hit that one in this point. But momentum shifting a little bit. Can the Falcons O-line connect all the way to the end zone? Combs. And Kaufman rips it out of the sky. Manning finding Jones. Different defensive scheme. Louie. Kaufman in pursuit. It's floating just enough. The touch on the throw. Enough for Kaufman. Kaufman leads it, and that one is for sure in the hands of Page. It took several times of asking, but another break on the board for Seattle Tempest.
Tempest are strategically using their away shots. That was another look at that block by Nguyen. Just phenomenal layup block. Subsequent throw was incomplete. The bobbles from Combs. That wind is making such an impact. You're seeing players who are typically so sure-handed not able to complete. But take a look. Coffin putting that disc up after they had just gotten a deep throw themselves. There's that scoring possession. Page closes it.
There was a lot of heat on that throw. It almost looked like a football reception. Catching that one very speedy coming in. Is this what the scoreline that you expected at this point of the game when we started?
Absolutely not. 8-3 in favor of Seattle. Like, this is the point differential where Seattle thrives, where they're able to drive their offense through their D-line.
We're seeing a little bit of a different O-line now from Bay. Don Colton, first time I've said that name today, on the field. Working with Brooke Nishida. This is usually a defensive line, and they're going to have to get the disc moving. Finds Nishida. Colton going up line, gets it, has a receiver going. Up into the break side, turning, and Pugh can't get it in the twirling reception. Almost a score.
Seattle's sort of second D-line on the field right now.
It's Romersa upfield to Sabina Hartnett. Inside, turnover, short field. Chang picking up. Chang, the captain. And that is a drop for Song. Centering, finding the disc. Working in that backfield, patient. Is this Tempest possession? Upfield to Mazo. Antolin. Hartnett elects to go back to Hannah Mimek. And a pick upfield called by Colton is going to send the disc back.
You mentioned earlier about Colton playing on an O-line, and you know, the depth of the Falcons O-line is such that Colton has had the ability to play D and drive the Falcons offense, but historically has been such an offensive player that they fit very naturally into that offensive role.
Floats up and punted into the deep space, intended for Antolin, but too high. Song tips it to make sure. Turnover, giving the disc back to Bay. This was originally a Bay point, so this is attempting to get a hold. They have the full 80 yards. Now they're in the end zone, a little bit further to go as Pugh floats it across. And a block. Hartnett gets that one, anticipating the play.
Seattle really playing the field position game right now.
Slicing through the air, bunch of players in the area. Antolin almost reads it. Colton picks up. And a drop.
Hartnett with the bookends there. Hartnett got the block and scored that goal. Hartnett, a Tempest rookie.
Here's another look at some of those. Just, you can see the wind playing havoc with the disc as it tries to hit the player's hands. In other games, those might be sure, but that was a great block from Hartnett. And this was the score. No hesitation from Mazo.
Strategically in this moment, I think that Seattle's game plan of attack deep aggressively is very effective given the weather conditions. And so it's really playing to Tempest's advantage in this moment. Whereas the Bay game plan is to be very possession oriented and play through precision throws to move the disc downfield deliberately and take those deep shots when they're available, but less, like a little bit more risk averse. And that is leading to many short field turnovers that Seattle is taking advantage of, which is what has created this 6-point goal differential on this game. Not because there's a big talent gap, but because the styles of play are inherently different. And my opinion is that Bay needs to make that adjustment to being more aggressive downfield to take more of those deep shots, given the windy nature of this game and how many doinks are, like, how many times the disc is bouncing off of players' hands.
Fenig finding Earhart to Combs. Combs looks deep. Goss, the intended receiver, being guarded by Kaufman. Blocked.
But even though that was blocked, I think it's a process win because now Seattle has to go the full 80 yards if they're going to be able to get this. This ultimately puts the Bay in a better offensive position because of how far they would have to go.
Great footwork on the sideline from Megan Louie to keep possession alive. Brogan Jones can't control that one, and it's a turn. Fenig, Scuber, Zalk catches it. It's a little bit more exciting, and it's like you willed it into being, Charlie, taking a little bit more chances.
Kaufman goes over the top to get the block over Goss, but Zalk has the concentration to be able to close that point out for the Falcons in one throw from Fenig to Zalk. that was the power of the deep look to Goss. It's a viable deep look. Sure, it got D'd, but it gave them the ability to generate that short field turnover when on the reset from Louis to Jones, there was a miscue and a dropped disc. The conditions are having a significant impact here, and so teams are going to have to be adjusting to them. And it'll also be interesting in the second semi for both teams coming in having more of an opportunity to like see what's happening and see the field conditions if we see any adjustments happening in our second semifinal.
Julia Mankoff to pole for Bay. It's going to land right about half field, almost directly on the line. Finley upfield. And a turn a little bit behind Monk. Song to Mankoff. Back to Song. Eliza Pugh. Really asking Jessie Song to do a lot of work in that backfield. Kaufman hammers up over the top. 2 defenders in the area. Lands a little bit short of Finley. I think that was a wind D and maybe a decision D more than anything else, but I'm hearing a timeout called.
With just over 2 minutes left in the first half, both teams get 2 timeouts per half. You can't take them with you, and particularly given the ability to change lines, this is a very smart opportunity to sub out your players and have a reset, particularly given how hot it is.
Yeah, and there really haven't been that many break chances for Bay, and this D line has done really great work to get that, but I will be interested to see in which personnel goes on the field for the Falcons. I will take this moment to shout out the player kneeling is supporting here. That's Pinwin Wang, who has been on the field for Bay, but is supporting, telling family this weekend of her pregnancy, which is why she's not playing, but could not keep herself away from her Falcons teammates. And so it's one of the really special things about this league is really the growth of these players, not just on the field, but off in families and all sorts of that thing. It's wonderful to see the support that the league has given parents.
And I think that while this weekend is held in a neutral third territory, or like a neutral party where there isn't a home team that is hosting, that is playing, Seattle has the advantage of being able to have all of their practice players drive down so they have a more complete sideline. Whereas, like, she was the only non-playing support player that the Falcons were able to bring because of limitations of being able to get players to this location. And so that does give an advantage to Tempest to have that additional personnel.
That turnover immediately giving the disc to Tempest. Tempest inbounds. Manning. Mazzo floats it. Intended for Petty, but very well defensively placed by Vicky Chen.
That foot block was disgusting.
That it was really good, I agree. Jones and Wynn got the D there. What is happening out of this timeout? We were having this nice, feeling moment, talking about the moms, and then they're just like, turnover, block, 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 turnover. Goodness gracious.
And that's what I love about the WUL, is that there's the love and also the ferocity for competition. And that is what makes this absolutely so spectacular. Play after quality play that is being demonstrated on the field.
Yeah, and that turnover is going to stand. Great block from Wynn to give the disc back to Bay. Floating. Too casual from Goss. Petty from Tempest. Brogan Jones was going upfield, elects to go backfield. It looks like a pick upfield is going to be stop plays. I don't believe that it was involved.
And remember, coming in off the stop disc, there's the 4-second pre-stall where the players are allowed to move, but the thrower is not allowed any throwing motion.
Back to Sue. Sue, Page, Sue! What a grab inbounds from Linnea Sue!
There's that hammer from Kaufman to Finley. Finley was really, you could see their feet were on the end zone line, and so they were staying still, trying to grab the disc inside. Foot block from Jones. There's that scoring pass from Page to Sue. Sue, due to some scheduling conflicts, hasn't been able to play that many games with Tempest this season. And they are someone who carries themselves somewhat quietly, but is able to make these big explosive plays, and they do so with that smile on their face. When they got up, they're just like all joy and emanating that love of game that we were talking about earlier.
48 seconds on the clock. That point took a ton of time off. The Bay took one of their timeouts, and yet Tempest prevailed and held.
Both teams still have a timeout going into these last 45 seconds.
Rolling out of bounds. Fenig is going to take it on the line. Guarded by Jones. Goes cross field. Lee to Combs. Combs, big flick, and it's blocked. Tempest gets the D. Ramirez to Jones. Louis, a lot of angles, it's floating, and Ramirez takes advantage. A timeout. I think that was Coach Deb Scheibe saying, sorry, it looked a little dicey there. Got to use the timeout, because it will have been very close to when that clock will run out. There's the doink, the awareness from Ramirez to get that.
Ramirez's decision to pick up the disc after the turn was also an interesting one. Ramirez's strength as a player has to do with their speed and their defensive intensity and ability to grab discs in the air. They are not known for the precision with their throws, particularly in the wind. And so I think that's also a factor. Like what you saw in the second part of that play of the reaction to be able to grab a disc that had bounced off of Combs' hands, that's like a classic Ramirez play. And so I think this move, allows the Seattle O to go in and kind of calm things down, hold that possession. For Seattle, what they're looking for here is not necessarily the break. It is to hold possession until the end of the point. Because a 6-point lead going into half in this kind of heat, but with only 2 seconds left, it's very likely that they hold possession.
We've seen wilder things here in the WUL, but you have to think that, if you're stacking the odds in your favor, it's a very smart coaching call because it gives so little opportunity for the Bay to get possession. Again, this point will end with a possession, not when the clock runs out. Spalding across. Sue, time looks like it has gone out now. Baroma upfield. Monk back to Spalding. And across to Sue, moving efficiently. Sue unleashes that disc floating. Stepanitis tries to get it, but Kaufman scores. One more for Tempest. Going into the half up 11-4.
Sue now 18 for 21 on Huck completions over the course of the season. There's that second effort grab. Here's from Ramirez. This is that shot from Sue. This is Kaufman's incredible scoring ability in the end zone to be able to pull this down over so many players' heads, you know, taking the heat off their cleats in that replay with that big grin on their face. And I think that, you know, Sue hadn't thrown a hook all game until that point. And so it depends on what we call a hook, but a long one, let's say. And I think that throwing choice that Sue used in that moment was the right play.
And as those players go to take a break, we will take a quick one as well. Coming back in just a moment.
Down in the car, one time give it all, bust it open hard, let me see you drop. Get down in the car, one time give it all, bust it open hard, let me see you drop. I fucked up this Russell, baby, we hustle, but the oh my.
Halftime at Championship Weekend in Western Ultimate League, and we are lucky enough to be joined by coach of Seattle Tempest, Ray Yang. Ray, how was that first half for you?
I mean, it was wild. One of the things we knew we wanted to do was come out and put a lot of pressure on Bay and just like force them to have to make throws, especially with the wind, and you know, it's working. We've got a lot of really individual fantastic efforts, but as a team, I'm just really happy with our D.
What are you doing that you think is being so effective in this moment?
I think one of the things we're doing is we're really pushing their handlers to have to make plays. So we're coming down with some flat marks and like really having to push them to the side. One of the things we trust and we've been trusting all season is that our downfield defenders, they're going to win their matchups. So then the handlers have to keep swinging it back and forth until they find something, and I think that's working. It's you know, definitely like forcing them horizontally is really, I think, creating a lot of opportunities for us.
That was a great first half, but you still have an entire second half to play. With a lead like that, does anything change in your messaging to the team? Because, you know, sometimes leads can disappear a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, one of the things that we've kind of preached all season is just go all 4 quarters. That like our efforts, as we like, you know, start pushing at the start, that they're going to show up more and more in the third and fourth quarter. And so I don't think we let up. You know, I mean, this team is deep. We have so many fantastic players, and we're just so excited to like keep sending them out there. And I think that, and the Bay is a good team. I'm not going to look, you know, past anything right now. We're focused on this next half, and we know that they've got the firepower to come back out.
All right, well, we'll have to see what happens. Best of luck to you. Thank you for giving us your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks so much.
And as the teams get out of the heat, we will take a break. But Seattle up 11-4 over Bay. Will there be a comeback, or will this be Tempest domination? Coming back after this break.
It's a goal! Hey, Cala, and it's
that part. Combat candy is for everyone who trains hard and deserves better than choking down powder. 5 grams of science-backed creatine and a gummy that turns supplement routine into something to look forward to. Just because your workout is serious business doesn't mean your creatine supplement is to me. Combat candy, making strength frickin' delicious. Try it at combatcandies.com.
Get down in the car, one time give it up, bust it open hard, let me see you drop. Get down in the car, one time give it up, bust it open hard, let me see you drop. I fucked up this hustle, baby, we hustle, but the oh my. I fucked up this hustle, baby, we hustle, but the oh my. What is my guys? Know that they fly, know that they ride or die.
Halftime winds to a close, and it was a very fiery first half. We are joined by Joey Durkin, one of the coaches of the Bay Area Falcons. Joey, talk us through that first half.
Yeah, so some of the adjustments we're trying to make out of that first half would be we're kind of collapsing around the disc and not finding a lot of space ourselves. Conversely, Seattle's been really good at stretching the field and not getting so bogged down. So in the second half, we'll look to stretch the field a little bit more and mostly try to corral them and put them into a few more disadvantageous positions.
What's the messaging to the team in this moment with a significant point differential?
1 point at a time. We're not going to get the whole lead back in 1 point, but plenty of time in the second half, so every goal matters.
What was the energy like in that halftime huddle? Obviously, you guys faced a bunch of adversity coming in to be at this moment, but there's just one semi, there's just one game. Tell us about what this team is doing to respond.
Yeah, trust in each other, trust in the work that we put in all season leading up to this moment, and again, that 1 point at a time mantra. All we can do is take one step at a time.
All right, well, thank you very much, Joey. We'll let you get back to the sideline and let you coach just 1 point at a time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And as the I said it was heating up, but you can see that the players are really taking advantage of the ice being provided at the tournament to try to cool down. Tempest coming out of the locker room. And this was a very fiery first half, certainly not what we expected in the open, but Seattle Tempest absolutely took over and made life very difficult for Robin Fenig and that Bay Area O-line. They were getting breaks all over the place on top of defensive plays. Fenig got that one back, but it was this layout from Linnea Sue that really felt like a big celebration from this Tempest side.
And this bonus after time had expired point grab by Kaufman shows that like sort of adds insult to injury and puts another point on the board. Kaufman ending the first half and starting the second half with that pull.
Yeah, Tempest is on defense. Fenig lets one loose, intended for win. Wind takes it away.
Wynn having one of the best first halves for the Falcons with 2 goals and 2 blocks in that first half. Definitely a good target there.
Finley throws into traffic in a high stall. Goss for the Falcons. Fenig dishes, and it's Zalk. A good hold for Falcons to start the second half.
Let's note that that started with a big huck from Fenig to Wynn, and even though Wynn didn't get it, they gained the field position so that Finley's first throw on that turnover gave Falcons that short field to be able to get this completion. That is an adjustment in how the Falcons are playing coming into the second half.
I feel like you're saying, Charlie, let it be known that I said that that is what they should do, and when they did what I said, they scored. Well, you know, it is, I think, what we also heard from Coach Joey Durkin in the interview, that saying that they know that they have to change up, right? They have to do something different, and they're doing it one point at a time, getting that hold quickly, getting their offense out of the sun, back into the shade, and putting their D-line on the field. Donahue with the pull for Bay. Great pull upwind from Donahue. Wow.
It's one of the best pulls we've seen.
Yes, fielded by Sue to Spalding, at least in that direction, certainly. Back to Sue. Guarded by Song. Finds Baroma. Baroma in and out of the hands. And back in the Hounds. Spalding. Far side to Kaufman. Monk puts one up. Too far for Finley. I don't know if there was a touch, but certainly a defensive effort in the middle of it. Break chance for the Falcons.
Falcons were 0 for 4 on breaks in the first half. Let's see if they can get their first break on this point.
Colton tracks that one down. I think looked a little bit frustrated on the angle that the other player came in on, went to get it, and I can see that there was a lot of pressure from Baroma on the hands and maybe ear of Colton, taking a injury.
And Baroma took a different angle, right, as Colton is coming forward. I think that Colton's frustration is well placed there.
And it looks like a yellow card being issued to Baroma, one of the captains of Seattle Tempest, for the potentially dangerous angle that play was made on and choosing not to stop, or not being able to stop momentum before contact was created. So it looks like Stepanidis is the player who's come in for Colton. Has played a lot with Mischief in the mix scene and gets a first throw turn there. Spalding unhesitating on the pickup. Kaufman now for Tempest. Up and over the top, Baroma. Sue. Slices, and it's Monk with the score. Frustration from the Falcons, squandering that break opportunity.
The energy feels a little bit flat at this moment. Like, I think the Falcons came out hard, and then I think that after that collision between Baroma and Colton, there's like a little bit of like unsureness that's on the field. This inside shot from Sue to Monk is a classic shoot. Like, Sue's inside forehand is like one of their signature throws. So that is very much a classic Sue throw. And I think is like part of what has had Monk's stats be so high. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the like vibe of this game continues after we have our first yellow card of the game, and really the first like questionable physical play between any of the players. How are these teams going to respond?
Manning to pull for Tempest. Disc rolling around that field line, almost trying to trace that big circle, but it forces Fenig to pick up almost on that sideline. As they said, their strategy was to force the handlers to do a lot of work. Lee elevates that one a little bit too much. Win snatches it. Goss gets that one back under control. Upfield, Fenig not quite in the end zone. Pivoting, trying to find a reset. Goss slices, and it's a turnover. Manning gets that one. Give and go Manning upfield. No one in the vicinity of Hartnett. Inside throw to Manning. Guarded by Fenig. Great defense, and it looks like a timeout is called. It would have been, I believe, a completion to Jones, but the timeout called by the coaching staff when Manning had the disc. Great defensive pressure by Bay to force that almost stall out against Tempest and force them into the use of a timeout.
Sometimes, you know, there's a reluctance to use a timeout so early in a half because you want to be saving them for the end of the game, particularly in the event of, you know, a close end of game situation. But I think that here you could really feel that the offense was stalling. And so it makes, you know, it has a lot of logic to it to be able to kind of keep pushing that lead. I think that's something that, you know, the Seattle coaches have talked about is like, we know that like the pressure is going to build throughout the course of the game. And so we are focused on winning the third and the fourth quarter as opposed to winning the first half.
Yeah, we got to listen in a little bit to that huddle on what they're trying to do. Coming out of this, it looks like the offensive line for Tempest is taking the field on this break chance. Spalding.
Noting that Spalding has held the disc 3 out of 3 times coming out of these situations.
Yeah, taking a lot of the responsibility for starting the engine of this offense, getting it moving. Lee, back to Spalding. Sue has ID on the far side, but elects to go to the open side to Baroma. Dancing on that end zone line, gets it back to Sue. Spalding, really taking advantage of that upline space. Spalding up and over the top, and it is a huge grab by Monk over and around Chang. What a grab from the rookie.
And that would be why they're nominated for Breakout Player of the Year. It is plays like that that has earned them that designation. There's the up and over with that block from Tempest. The edge and placement. Monk had a turnover earlier. Monk is at their best when they are grabbing these discs in the end zone. Players have talked about how you can see Monk getting better every practice, every game, that even over the course of this season, they're getting better and really stepping into their own, making that case for sort of like the gist of what the breakout player of the year is trying to award.
Also, this coaching staff is nominated, right, for this, and that was a high stall timeout call. They put it in Spalding's hands. The offensive line went and they scored on that break. That is also textbook offensive strategy from Tempest. So not just the players on the field, but the coaching staff really linking up to put this game a little bit further out of the reach of Bay, who's just been an amazing team all season long. I think really feeling the loss of Alex Barnett here has been one of the players who has led the charge in cohesiveness for this team, putting things together as we're seeing this offensive line. Salk trapped on the line, finds Combs, back up to Lee. Lee having to do a little bit more handling with Barnett not on the field, and more contact there on Win with, I believe that's Mazo, excuse me.
Just a replay of some of that physicality. When I think to me, it seems like Falcons are frustrated.
Fenig finds up and over the top to Lee. The handlers work it all the way into the end zone. Falcon clean hold in the middle of the third.
And clean hold despite increasing physicality. And I think that that's what you saw from Win there, is that frustration, and huge kudos to Win for like the focus to be able to continue to execute after some of that defensive pressure is starting to turn a little bit physical. And I like extreme kudos to the Falcons for continuing to play through that with class and like skill.
I was going to say, what do you see as kind of leading to the change in physicality that we've seen in this third quarter?
Honestly, I think that players, as they are tired, are just a little bit sloppier with their bodies. That with the heat and like having to run more, like we are a little bit less coordinated. And so something where a movement is like tight and contained in the first half, your arms are maybe just a little bit more flappy in the second half, which is creating some additional contact.
We'll see if they can then clean it up as Seattle gets it back to Sue Kaufman. A little bit too high, but Sue gets it anyway, unhesitating, headed for Monk, and it's Colton. The wind just touched the disc enough to take it out of Monk's hands, and that extra second was all Colton needed. Colton finds Jesse Song. Break opportunity for the Bay. Donahue finding Colton. Colton has Stephanitis deep. Stephanitis reads it. Not a lot of players in the area. Stephanitis up and over the top. Too far for Song. It looks like that one is going to stand. I saw some flapping hands and maybe thought a call happened, but no, that is another turnover. But they really gave the Tempest a project, and that Sue is going to have to come in on this line.
And they're going to have to work it, which is going to keep the O-line on the field longer, which will, look at that block. It gives the Falcons a chance on the end zone line. This could be their first break.
Pugh picks up, dishes to Colton, who makes the up line. Colton gets it done.
First break of the game for Bay. They are now within 5.
Oof, that number that you just said, though, that is a hill to climb. Goodness gracious. Here it goes. That's the one from Kaufman that floated. Sue took advantage. And this is the throw. You can see the disc just bounces for a second, and that is when Colton strikes. The wind giveth and the wind taketh away, and that was the kick block. I believe that is Vicky Chen. Beautiful work from Falcons. They have it in them, but can they keep it going?
You talked about that championship caliber mentality. I think Colton is that in this moment for the Falcons. And I think that riding Colton, like you could see the hunger of, I'm going to make this point happen. We are going to take this point. Falcons riding Colton and like their success is going to, I think, help propel the Falcons for this potential comeback.
Wind changing direction a little bit. Tempest going the other way. Finding Sue. Upfield to Baroma. Trapped a little bit on the line. Manning is free, but it's not enough. The wind moves that away from Manning's hand, and another break opportunity for Bay. Chang with the disc as they give and go very quickly. Big throw going up. Players coming underneath. Monk says no. But notably, again, this defensive pressure has put Tempest all the way back in the end zone, and they have a lot of yards to go.
Finley picking up the disc is new to Tempest this year, and you'll see them both starting with the disc, but also cutting deep.
Centers it to Sue. Sue to Manning. Coming along this far line. Monk upfield to Kaufman. Kaufman looking at options deep. Elects to go back to Sue, who has to lay out to be sure of possession. Kaufman finding Baroma. Manning. The backhand force, kind of forcing small areas. Chang gets in the middle of it. Block for Bay.
Chang, you can see waving their hands there, like thinking, should we push right now? Okay, no, we should settle for a moment before we start our possession.
Yeah. Block from Manning, the foot block.
This game is rife with foot blocks, and I'm here for them.
Clean foot blocks, too. That one thrown by Nishida. Monk now with the disc on the sideline, up and over the top, and it's Manning with the bookends, the block, and then the score. Tempest keeps the doubling up of Bay going, and we're not even in the fourth yet.
14-7 with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. That is an increasingly challenging differential to come back from for the Bay. There was a really great grab from Manning to get this to close out that point.
Yeah, Manning does a really great job there of just continuing to churn. Gets a block, gets a D, has a turnover maybe earlier in that point, is unfazed and continuing to run in this heat. And I think that is speaking to kind of the relentlessness we've seen from this Tempest side all game long. They're not really fazed by the turnovers in the same way that Seattle seems to be that Bay seems to be upset every time that they turn it over.
Seattle has a nominee in each of the WUL championship categories, and I think we're seeing that play out on the field.
They did talk about their depth. Fenig going over the top to Combs, trying to get it past that first layer of defense as we see a pick significantly away from the disc. Going to send that back.
Take a look at that saggy handler defense right now, trying to make lure Bay into throwing many throws.
Combs goes back to Lee and gets it there. They're running that behind cut and a layout block from Romersa. Knew the angle it was going to come at. Toes it in. Hartnett. Upfield, in and out of the hands of Romersa. A turn. Fenig to pick up for Bay. Big throw going up, slicing back in. Combs almost gets that one, but the pressure from Hartnett makes it very difficult to read. Jones in the middle of the field. Hartnett almost going every other. Great awareness from Megan Louie to Jones. They're finding that soft spot in the middle of the field. Romersa on the sideline. Back to Jones. Looking deep. And it is Tempest in the end zone. The almost fake out celebration from Jules Mazo. 15-7. Here's another look at that layout block from Romersa.
And there's that block from Hartnett. Hartnett's third block of the game. Jones looking to put it deep. Mazo clinching that in the end zone. Mazo, someone who has played themselves into more playtime over the course of the season through plays like that, increasing their reliability on the field, you know, making themselves an essential part of the D-line's offense.
Yeah, and very often is starting in the handler space and then going to the deep space. And as a defender, that's so frustrating to guard because you can never predict exactly where that player always wants to go back to. And that kind of dynamicism from the Tempest players, we're seeing Bay struggle to guard with, even though they have, you know, Whiffler, who has had a quiet game for Bay, one of the defensive standouts in the league, just hasn't been able to get a footing on their defensive line, as we see Colton in the middle of the disc now, out to Stepanidis. Looking with Pugh in that reset space, too far for Pugh. Mazo, flick into the end zone, the reception from Hannah Mimic.
Mimak with her first year with the Tempest, coming over, playing with Alpenglow last year. There's the dish just out of Pugh's hands. Immediately, again, we talked about Mazo's contribution, immediately putting that disc up. Mimak, again, to your point, a handler who has cutting deep into that space, and that switching and versatility of like the mobility within who's handling and cutting that the Tempest is using right now is throwing off the Falcons. And I would be remiss to say that the travel situation for the Bay isn't having an impact in this moment.
Yeah, with less than a minute to go in the third, I think the other thing we haven't talked about as much is that these teams haven't seen each other in a year, and so the ability of those handlers to go deep, it's so difficult to scout that and understand it in a physical way that you do when you actually play a team in the regular season. And Seattle has the all-time head-to-head record 4-1. Bay has only beat them one time. So yes, the travel situation, but just the history between these two teams is significantly in the favor of Tempest, even though these are very different teams than the last time they faced each other. Earhart getting the disc from Fenig, breaks to Goss. Goss looks deep. It's floating, intended for Win. Win gets it in between defenders, and Zolk gets a clean hold. Very efficient from the Falcons O-line.
Third goal for Zolk this game. Zolk, someone who, you know, coming into this game was tied for most goals on the Falcons, had 13 in the regular season, now is at 16, really has a nose for the end zone, and like someone who's been with the Falcons for many years and is able to like find that spacing. And Win's ability to close in those tight spaces, come up with the physicality and the determination in those moments is making a significant difference. Win has been part, whether it's the assist or the goal or maybe the like hockey assist, for many of the Bay's 8 points so far.
Bay down 8-16. 2 seconds left. This is possession, and I believe they gave it away before the horn went. Colton, there's the horn.
Observers are waving their hand to stop play.
And this may have been because the clock went out before the horn went. So it's actually going to be possession ending that will likely be the end of the third quarter. Just looking for confirmation. There we go. So our clock, the horn was a little bit tardy, but the observers knew what was going on and quickly signaled that while Bay got the block to stop Tempest from continuing that possession, they couldn't go the other direction. And fans coming in, trying to beat the heat. And we will also take a moment to try to beat the heat, but don't go anywhere. Will Bay make a comeback? It's a big hill to climb, but we've seen bigger. Let's take a break. Semifinals Saturday at championship weekend in the Western Ultimate League. It is the matchup between Seattle Tempest and the Bay Area Falcons, and it has been all Tempest so far this afternoon, currently leading 16-8. 12 minutes for the Bay to make a comeback, or it will be Seattle punching their ticket into the final tomorrow. Seattle on offense, and it's a block. It's like Lee with the run through. Colton with the break chance, up, flick, going intended for Whiffler, but Monk gets in the way.
Monk's second block of the second half.
Sue picks up for Tempest, finding Spalding. Sue. Baroma makes the deep cut, open with yards. Jason Lee with the disc.
It looks to me like there's a conversation about a push-off foul of like change of direction that, you know, would give Lee the advantage to get that disc from Pugh.
Yeah, and I'm seeing the hands come together in a contest form. It looks like the disc is going to go back to Baroma.
I think that's one of the really great things about Frisbee is the ability to sort of have this redo in those somewhat nebulous situations.
Baroma finds Kaufman in the reset space, unguarded. Back to Baroma, and it's too far. Whiffler gets the block. As it floated through traffic, yeah.
Former Tempest player Bridget Whiffler switching sides now.
Sue gets that punt and gives it back to Tempest. Too far for Sue. Grobecker. Colton lays out to get possession. Deep. Stepanitis in pursuit. Keeps going. Could have got there. I think maybe thought about it too long, but the wind held that one up.
You could see the pause in the cadence of Stepanitis' steps, and if they had just kept going, could have been the difference maker there. But again, that's another example of how the wind is messing with throws, having them do unexpected things.
Spalding, guarded by Chen, finds Baroma. Lee. Back to Baroma. Leading Spalding, flick. Huck, Lee had left the handler space. Tries to catch that with just the left hand. A break chance for Bay. A lot of time coming off the clock in this point. The first one of this fourth quarter. Grobecker working with Janelle Lee, and it looks like a timeout called by the Tempest sideline. Coaching staff stopping that disc right around the brick mark.
So our heat advisory policy is done through a wet bulb, and because of the low humidity, that number isn't very high right now. However, it's still very hot on the turf for these players. And so you can see like Colton having the ice bag on their head right now, that like the fatigue of this game. It's almost 90 degrees. Take a look at that. You know, the wind is changing direction. It is clearly having an impact on how players are feeling and making it much more challenging for the Bay to come back, particularly because of the rotations that they're having to have for players and the lopsidedness of this game so far.
And that is Coach Manisha Dariani talking with this line about how to attack, how to make things happen. Yes, you know, we have an eye on the Heat, and it may be impacting this game, but it is not actually affecting the time schedule that we're playing on yet. But we'll keep an eye on that in the second game and tomorrow as Portland heads into a historic heat wave, as they keep telling me. But Los Angeles me says, oh, it's fine, I guess. But, you know, we're in a different part of the country than I usually hail from.
We're soft up here in the Pacific Northwest.
I would say we just have different ideas of what normal is and what hot is, but that is okay. Fenig can't be bothered by that, facing a zone, going up over the top, out of bounds. That is new Dr. Lurie.
Dr. Mrs. Lurie.
That's true. Got married this year and got a PhD, so the name changed. But Jules is not able to keep a foot in, but Tempest turn it back over. Earhart now with the disc facing the zone. Fenig back again. You can see many players around the disc. Up and over Combs. Fenig, Lee, and fakes and lets go of the disc. Turnover, Jones. Romersa, the intended receiver, and grabs it. What a catch from Alexa Romersa. Mazzo, the thrower. What a catch from Romersa. Here's another look at many of the turnovers in this point. That was the layout from Colton. Stepanitis too far. Lots of back and forth. That one was just out of bounds. You can see this one flicks. Oh, wants it back. I do not know how Romersa got that. On the trailing edge with the defensive pressure of Lee.
Romersa was playing with Tempest during the 2022 and 2023 when Tempest won their championships, and then had taken a break. And coming back, Romersa has that hunger and is I am here. My defense, my athleticism to make those highlight reel plays, I did other things, and I am back and making a statement with my play.
Yeah, that's got to be such a gut punch for the Falcons, because they took a timeout to try to punch in the break, but with the back and forth, they really could never get that offense going. Picked pocket. I think that was Mimic with the D. Kaufman working with Chung, one of the reserve players, pulled up into this game for Tempest. Pointing. Kaufman through the center. Chung laying out, gets the score, coming back from injury and onto the scoreboard for Tempest, really showing off and utilizing the depth.
Chung, someone who has played for Tempest for many seasons, has been a leader on the team and but spent most of the year recovering from an injury that they sustained last fall. And so has played only a handful of games in this season. And so it's really so great. You can see the love for the team, and particularly Chung in this moment of what it means to Chung to be able to get on the field and make an immediate impact with a highlight reel play. And we would be remiss if we weren't specifically again naming why Chung got pulled onto the active roster today, because Caitlin Rowling is not here right now because they are coaching at High School National Invite. We mentioned this earlier, but Rowling is one of those top players for Tempest, so we're seeing this performance without Rowling on the O-line. And there is an expectation that they would be with Tempest tomorrow for a championship game. But again, who knows how their coaching's going to go? Who knows how the rest of this game is going to go?
Yeah, Falcons, Goss throws it into the turf. Throw going up. Clap catch from Hartnett leading Antolin, who did elect to leave her youth players at the high school to play in this game and notches one on the board.
And while we're talking about that, Jess Spalding also was coaching at High School National Invite and elected to leave their players to be here as well.
Hartnett to Antolin.
That's a good celebration from Antolin. Love it on yourself. I love it. Something that I'm seeing Tempest do that's really interesting is a lot of sort of somewhat same third away shots. And so that was a shot there from Hartnett to Antolin. And with the wind situation, it is working more frequently than I would expect it to typically, which feels a little bit odd. A lot of them have been close, but the majority of them have been completed. I'm not sure if that's an intentional choice or if it's just what's happening.
I mean, what's happening now is they have proved that they earned the #1 spot in the Northwest. They are just creating chaos, and Bay has not had an answer within themselves, facing those travel difficulties, and it looks like potentially a stall called or something called going back, but unsure what that one is between Fenig and Jones.
Contested stall.
Yeah, we're going to come in on 5. You can see the 5 fingers up as we have just over 3 minutes left on the clock. Back to Jones. Jones too high for wrong. Fenig finds Pugh. Really looking deep, but electing not to take that shot. Pugh finds Earhart in the middle to Combs. Back to Earhart. Fenig in the middle, looking for the dish. Short to Combs. Earhart is going deep. Pugh underneath. Unleashes Zalk, guarded by Antolin, and it's Zalk under a lot of contact. Gets the score for Bay.
When we think about players who are here and not here, an impactful player who is not here, there's this scoring possession. Zalk does a great job tracking that down through the physicality from Antolin. Really puts her body in front to make sure that she has that. Antolin's, again, a little bit potentially overly physical.
And it looks like a yellow card is being issued to Antolin for that play. And again, I think that is a correct rules application by the observing squad, because there was no way for Antolin, given the angle of the disc on that play, to make the play safely without going through Zalk's body, right? Was not able to make the play without creating contact. And it's another defensive position. It looks like Nishida is going to pull for Bay. Kaufman being guarded by Colton. Lee tiptoes and gets it to Spalding. Switching on the handlers by Bay, but they're working it up the field. Sue. Spalding. Picks the shot. It floats a little bit, and it is caught by Finley. Colton tried to get that one, but the wind gifted it into the pathway of Finley. Here's another one. Look at it. You can see how Finley gets almost the second effort. Colton really giving everything as they're trying this poach scheme to get those blocks, and inches, centimeters, fingernails width between that D and a score, but it's another one for Tempest.
It seems like that throw from Spalding was a little bit of, well, I have Finley and Kaufman and Monk back here. Someone's going to get it. I'm just going to put it to the space, like a little bit of a trust throw. But really want to highlight Finley as a new player and another great example of someone who can play offense, can play defense, can play as a handler, can play as a cutter, that their versatility does make them very threatening on the field. And has added to that depth and the ability to kind of flex players between the D-line and the O-line.
Manning pulls Pugh Fields and centers to Fenig. Pugh, big backhand goes up. Misread a little bit by Wynn under the defensive pressure from Manning. Manning picks up and gives it to Idy. Idy too short. Zalk may have touched that, hard to see. Pugh brings it back in. Low backhand to Goss. Big bid attempt by Manning, calling injury. Great reception by Wynn. That looks like a classic run over to help with the cramp.
And I appreciate that it's Wynn that's holding Manning's leg in that moment. I think that's such the class that the Falcons show. And kudos to Manning for making that bid and not having contact.
Yeah, I was going to say the angle on that was very safe. Wynn does a very good job to get it. The cramp returns as Manning takes the injury substitution. Unsure who came in, but it looks like maybe Romersa replacing. As we are just waiting for, players to be safe on the other sideline, and now we are back underway. Ice melting very quickly on that sideline. Goss now with the desk for the Falcons. Back to Pugh. Goss. Lee. Swinging the disc. Fennig thinks about trying to continue to that break side, but give and go back to Fennig. Pugh slices all the way to the back of the end zone, and it's Win!
Win is absolutely blowing up this game, and they have been such a key contributor to so many of their points.
Yeah, nickname Kobe, one of the longtime veterans of this Falcons program, a Callahan winner out of UC Berkeley.
When we think about the contributions that Win's making on the field, we also want to think about the contributions of players not present and not on the field. So shout out to Captain Georgia Cardosa, who was a Breakout Player of the Year finalist last year, who was a Defensive Player of the Year finalist last year for the Falcons. And because of ACL surgery, is not able to be here, has traveled with the team for many of their away games, and the leadership that Cardosa brings to the sideline, the presence to be able to talk through different situations, I think the lack of that is really making a difference for the Falcons in this game. So Cardosa, you are missed on and off the field, and your contributions are immeasurable.
Yeah, another captain missing is Jesse Crowley, who the Falcons also said was really one of the heart and soul pieces of the team, and that's one of the hard things about not having anyone have a home game is there's a lot of people who just can't travel to these games, but you should though, because it's really fun to watch.
Crowley as a captain for Tempest, not for Falcons.
Sorry. Kaufman for Tempest. Big huck going up. Monk, the intended receiver, and gets it inbounds. Defensive effort. I believe that was Grobecker who got a hand on it, but the hands of Monk, the knees in the end zone line, tracking it down, touches it, and then behind the player. So frustrating as a defender to get that. Great positioning from Monk, to be sure.
That has to be so frustrating for the Falcons in that moment. It feels like there have been a lot of really close plays like that where Falcons defenders are touching discs and Tempest receivers are still getting them off of the deflection or the rebound, or, it's like the wind bounces it. And if a handful of those were going the other way, it could really change the course of this game. But shout out to the Falcons for continuing to put the pressure on and be there to make those plays so close.
Under 2 minutes left to play, and 11 points separate Tempest from the Falcons. Falcons haven't let up, but they just haven't had an answer for the intensity of this Seattle side. Earhart with the disc for the Bay. Fennig, upfield, too far for Goss, a little bit out of bounds.
Goss, a Seattle native, part of the product of the Seattle youth scene. And I think that, the Seattle youth scene and the Bay youth scene are very strong and have contributed so many of the talented players that we're seeing here on the field today.
Big throw going up. Earhart blocks that one, giving the disc back to the Falcons. Pugh to Lee. Great grab. Goss. Floating it up over Combs. Hartnett makes sure that it can't get to Earhart.
Fourth block for Hartnett.
And a block for Zolk.
On Hartnett.
Waning moments of this game. 2. Tight defense by Mazo. Goss gets it, guarded by Antolin. Fenig had to leave the handler space, but is there now shooting across. Zalk gets it in the back. Another connection from Fenig to Zalk, and bookends for the Falcons, but 12 seconds remain, and I don't know what kind of black hole they would have to enter physics to get that many points in time, but the effort is all there from the Bay Area. Great grab by Zalk.
And so much appreciation and respect for the Falcons team for continuing to play with this level of intensity and heart despite the score of the game. You know, it takes a lot to be down and overcome that mental hurdle of we're coming back on the field, we are going to keep working and keep exhibiting superb play.
You know, if we're looking back to the beginning of the season, looking at the North Carolina transplants, the pickup for this team, they had a lot of really high hopes. But just in this moment, on this day, here in Portland, it has been Tempest's day. They took control of this game from the early moments, and the Bay has not had a chance for it. The horn goes, and though the disc dies to the ground, possession has ended, and that is the game. Maybe not the out with a roar that they winded, but that is a decisive victory for Seattle, and they have pushed their place from first in the Northwest, right, into the finals for tomorrow, and we have a whole other semifinal to go to see who will face them. What a game.
This game has been sort of a textbook Tempest game for the course of their season. So many of their games have been led by their D-line, and their D-line's like hunger to be able, and their ability to convert with the fast break and pushing the pace after they have gained possession. And it has led to Seattle having this enormous point differential built up over the course of the regular season. And so that is what we saw here today, this huge point differential, and it will be really interesting to see how that fares for them tomorrow in the finals.
Yes, and as we see them slapping hands and getting ready, we'll take a short break, but more to come today on Semifinal Saturday.
Get down in the car, one time give it all. Bust it open hard, let me see you drop. Get down in the car, one time give it all. Bust it open hard, let me see you drop. I fucked up this Russell, baby, we hustle, but the oh my. I fucked up this Russell, baby, we hustle, but the oh my. What is my guys? Know that they fly, know that they ride or die.
What a semifinal we just witnessed. Seattle Tempest taking down Bay Area Falcons 21-11, and MVP nominee Jamie Kaufman is joining us Jamie, how was that game for you?
That was so fun. It's like top to bottom, our whole team is so good, and just to see us come out and win at every position on the field, just incredible. I'm really excited for tomorrow.
Jamie, you talked in your Instagram takeover for the Tempest earlier today about what it has meant for you to be part of the Tempest this season. What does it mean for you to be in this moment right now?
It's incredible. It's everything I wanted out of this season. This is my first season playing women's, and it's the being included in a space like this has been incredible, and yeah.
We're seeing a lot of emotions come up from you. It's been amazing to see you have such an impact on the field. How do you feel like the team really was able to take over against this Bay side who, you know, I think was maybe a coin flip in our minds at the beginning of this game?
I think we wanted it more. I think we won at every position, just playing person defense, and our depth really showed.
This is less of a question and more of an appreciation. So, viewers, I have known Jamie for many, many years, and Jamie, I am so impressed by you. Like the growth from watching you as a freshman in high school, and the like intangibility of like your play on the field and how you have developed as a player. It is so beautiful to watch. And your mark on the culture of the Tempest has been utterly incredible this year. And your presence in this league is so meaningful. So less of a question, more of an appreciation. You're amazing. Thank you so much for giving us the joy of watching you play on the field.
Thanks.
Yes, we will let you get out of the sun and celebrate with your team, but look forward to seeing you in finals tomorrow. Good luck and thank you.
All right, thank you.
And as we see the celebration of the ultimate banner there, we will take a break before we come back with our second semifinal of the day. San Diego Super Bloom and Colorado Alpenglow. What a first semifinal, the culmination of the WUL season championship weekend was underway. These stars were showing out, but I don't think anyone was ready for the intensity of the Sun or Seattle Tempest.
But if you talk to the Tempest coaches, they would definitely say our defense has been our calling card this whole year, and that's what you've seen much of during this first game.
They talked defensive intensity, they talked depth, and they talked really wanting it. A really even spread, so many different goal scorers, blockers, and assisters. Falcons didn't have an answer, but we will be looking forward to seeing Seattle in the finals tomorrow. I'm Katie Killebrew, joined by Charlie Mercer. Thank you. One more semi to go in championship weekend.